After you've sliced an image into multiple slices and added names and other options to the user slices, the final step is to optimize and save out each slice as an individual JPEG, GIF, or PNG file. You can then bring those graphic files into a website building program like Dreamweaver to include them on the final pages that you build there. Here I have a web page comp, and I've finished slicing it and adding names to the important slices, the user slices. I haven't bothered naming the slices with the gray icons on them, because when I build my final pages in Dreamweaver or another website building program, those areas won't be graphics. They'll be composed of background color and text in the HTML code. But I do want to save out of Photoshop all the parts of this page that I'll include as images. So I'm going to go to the File menu at the top of the screen and choose Save for Web and Devices. I'm going to work in the Optimize tab so I can see as much as possible of this large image in the preview area. The task here is to optimize each of the slices here with the best settings for the content of that slice. There are lots of slices, over 40 slices, and I don't want to have to optimize each one separately. So I'll show you a few ways that you can economize and save time as you optimize multiple slices. The first thing I'm going to do is to look for areas that might optimize with the same settings. A good example are the buttons up here. I'm going to hold down the spacebar temporarily to change the cursor to a hand so that I can see the slices around all 5 of the buttons. With the Slice Select tool selected here in the toolbox, I'm going to click on the slice around the Boards button, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click on these other 4 slices. With all of those selected, I'm going to go over to the optimization controls on the right side of this window. I'm going to make sure that format is set to GIF because these are flat art, and then I'm going to try reducing the number of colors. As you know from an earlier chapter, reducing the number of colors in a GIF is the best way to reduce its file size. So right now I see that all 5 of these buttons are 3.863 kilobytes. That's reported down here in the bottom left of this preview window. If I go to the colors field and I choose a lower number of colors, I think I can go as low as 8 here and still have buttons that look reasonably good. I managed to lower the size of all 5 buttons combined to under 2 kilobytes. So I'm very happy with that result. Now I'll look for some other slices whose content is similar, like these 3 photos here in the middle of the page. Again, I'll hold the spacebar to move the image over so I can see all of the photos. And then with the Slice Select tool, I'll click on the slice around the first photo, hold down the Shift key, and click on the slices around the other 2. When I look at the optimization controls, I see that they're currently set to GIF, and that's why the photos don't look very good, because photos, as you know, optimize best as JPEGs. So I'm going to change the format here to JPEG. It's currently set to medium, and that looks pretty good to me, and all 3 of my photos are coming in at only 13.44 kilobytes, so I'm going to accept that. I see the 3 buttons down here. They're going to optimize the same way because they really are copies of just one graphic. So again, I'll hold the spacebar and click and drag to move over, and with the Slice Select tool, I'll click on the slice around the first of these buttons, hold the Shift key, and click on the other 2 slices. One problem that I'm having here is that I can't tell whether the blue at the edges of these buttons is going to match the blue I have in mind for the page background. And that's because the slices that aren't selected have this kind of a ghost-like film over them. That's just a way of indicating which slices are selected at the moment. So what I want to do is to make the slices temporarily invisible so I can really see the colors in the underlying artwork. And to do that, I'll go over to the toolbox on the left side of Save for Web and Devices, and I'll click on this icon right here. And that will hide the slices temporarily. And now I can go and reduce the number of colors, and I'll be affecting just those 3 selected buttons. So for example, if I put this as low as 2, you can see that that is the area that's being optimized. Well, 2 colors isn't enough for those. 4 isn't enough because I don't have those curved button edges. 8 is getting there, and 16 is just fine. So now I'm going to turn my slices back on by clicking that Hide and Show Slices button again. I have a few more slices to optimize. One is this slice right here, which could go either way. It could optimize best as GIF, or it could optimize best as JPEG. And the only thing you can do in this case is just to try both. So with that slice selected and the format set to GIF, with colors at 16, I think that the appearance is pretty good. The file size is also reasonable, 5.391K. I'll change the format to JPEG. With a quality of medium, the file size is quite low, but I don't think that the artwork in this slice looks very good with that setting. So I'll try increasing the quality of this JPEG slice. And now it looks better, and the file size is fine, 5.03 kilobytes. So I'll stay with that. There are a few more user slices that I haven't optimized yet. I'm going to do all of those together. One is this groundswell logo slice. I'll select that and click on this slice here and this one over here, which have parts of the pattern of the navigation bar. And I'll also hold the Shift key and click on this surfboards area. And then I'll go over and choose a number of colors. Try 8. I think everything looks good with 8 colors, and the total file size is low, so I'll leave it at that. So all the user slices are now optimized. If I click on one of the auto slices, like this one, I can see that it has an infinity symbol in it. All of the auto slices have this symbol, meaning that they are linked together for purposes of optimizing. So whatever I choose for one of these will apply to all. Because these are flat art, I'll leave them at GIF, and I'll reduce the number of colors, maybe to 8, to make sure that there's enough there that if I want to save some of these out as graphics, the text will be readable. But as I mentioned, when I build my final page, I probably won't use graphics in the areas covered by these auto slices. Now that everything is optimized, it's time to save. I'll click the Save button at the bottom of the Save for Web and Devices window. I'll navigate to my desktop, and there I'm going to make a new folder. I'll call this the Surfboard page, and I'll click Create. I want to make sure that format is set not to just images only, but to HTML and images, so that along with all of the image files that Photoshop will generate from the slices, it will also generate an HTML file containing code that will reassemble all the images when viewed in a web browser. I'm also going to make sure that slices is set to all slices. I could just save out the user slices, or I could save out slices that I had selected with the Slice Select tool, but I'll go with all slices for now. And then I'll click the Save button. Now I'm going to go out to my desktop, and there is my Surfboard page folder. Inside of that folder, there is an HTML file, and there's also an images folder. Look what's inside the images folder. Lots of JPEGs and GIFs. Each one of these was generated from a single slice in that web page comp. The JPEGs and GIFs that have meaningful names were made from my user slices, and these names came from the slice names that I had given to those slices. The GIFs down here that have these less meaningful names were generated from the auto slices, and these names came from the name of the original source file and the number of the slice. As I mentioned, I probably won't use those slices when I build my final page, but I will use these JPEGs and these GIFs that contain meaningful names. Let me open a couple of those for you to see. I'll open a GIF and a JPEG in Photoshop. So here is a JPEG, and here is a GIF, each of which was saved from a separate slice in my web page comp. I'm going to go back to the desktop and look inside the Surfboard page folder one more time so that I can open this HTML file for you in a web browser. Here in my default browser, the HTML code reassembles all the individual image files into the original composition. Now I could take this HTML page along with the images folder into a site building program like Dreamweaver and tweak the HTML there, adding other kinds of code like CSS, for example. Or if I wanted to scrap the HTML code altogether, I could just bring in the image files into Dreamweaver, create an HTML page there, and use the image files that Photoshop created as assets on that HTML page. The workflow that you choose to follow is your preference, but however you proceed, the good news is that you now have the image assets that you need for this web page, all generated by Photoshop from a single sliced page layout.